we rise to the top. Can't stop this flow. In the heart of the jungle, we're ready, let's go.
Yeah, dude.
In the heart of the jungle, we're ready, let's go.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Round Table here with Ben. What's going on, man?
A lot, man. Fucking life's been tough. To be honest, it's
I've heard.
yeah, it's been a hell of a week. Made some mistakes that I wasn't proud of myself, and not even just the load and stuff. Like it's been a crazy week, man. And even Taylor's like, "You all right?" And I'm like, "No, man." Like she's like, "I can tell." She's like, "You've done things that you don't usually do," and I'm like, "Yeah, I know. I don't know what's really going on, like." And she's like, "It's just that happens with like fevers and stuff. Like it really takes a lot out of your body." And I'm like, "Oh, and don't tell me that." So I've been really like trying the last couple of days, just trying to get back onto some things. I couldn't even work. Like I couldn't work out. I couldn't do anything.
That's rough.
Yeah, it was even just because, I mean, they get there so that it's both hands and feet. So on my toes.
You're like, I can't put shoes on.
Walking.
Oh yeah.
Like I compare it to like having needles all over the place and then just putting pressure on it. And then like when you jump in the shower, it feels like when you have a sunburn, it hits water like that.
Yeah, that's rough.
And so but I still walked. I was like, you know what? I got to do something. And then I started talking to Taylor. I was like, I can't believe, because, we were all kind of under the weather. She didn't get what I got, but Gamma and I didn't have the same thing. And I was like, man, this sucks. Like, we used to live like this. She's like, what do you mean? I was like, we used to like come home and just sit on the couch and watch TV, because that's what we did, right?
Yeah.
And she's like, damn, you're right. I was like, this would be a fucking miserable life. I was like, I would hate this life. And she's like, yeah, but some people don't know. I'm like, yeah, that's true. We didn't know for a long time. Like that's what we thought we would do. You come home from work, you eat dinner, and you just sit and do nothing. Granted, there's some days, that you just do that.
Yeah, there's some days you have to.
Or a family time or something like that. But God, every day I couldn't do it, man. Like my ass hurt, like just sitting down all day. Like
You need to get a better bed, man. I'm just kidding.
Oh, that's a whole nother story, bro. But yeah, man, it's been a hell of a week. It's been a hell of a week, and but I'm glad I healed up enough. My father-in-law to kind of ask some help for some stuff this weekend, and I promised him, and obviously we had this coming up. And I was like, man, I don't want to fucking miss it. I was like, I better, no matter what. And I was gonna text you too when we talked early in the week. I was like, I'm coming no matter what, bro. Like, just put it on your fucking calendar. But Taylor was like, you need to be careful with stuff like that because you really don't know. Like,
yeah.
And I was like, no, I fucking know. And she's like, yeah. She's like, well, you might like chug through it, but if you're like contagious and shit, like just don't be an asshole. And I'm like, all right, yeah, I get that point of it, but. Yeah, man, it's been a hell of a week, but yeah, it's been fun. It's fun is a life. It's the way life is, right? Just up and downs, and you figure it out.
I mean, it's like everything. It happens for a reason, right? There's a reason stuff happens. You had. I couldn't tell you. Nobody can tell you the reason shit happens, but maybe it was the reality check you needed to maybe. Not necessarily slow down, but reappreciate what you're doing.
No, for sure.
For sure. Because the slow down's probably not happening, but the reappreciation for, okay, I guess it's, I don't even know what to compare it to, but it's like you break your arm, break your foot, whatever. Mm-hmm. Once you're walking normal again, or once you're doing normal things again, you start to you reappreciate how life used to be, or what life can be when something happens. I mean, a sickness, it's not necessarily the worst thing, but when it takes you out like that, you have to turn around and you're like, shit, I got a lot. Like, I was doing a lot. I didn't realize what I was doing. And it makes you appreciate, like, hey, I was taking some of this shit for granted. So, like you were saying, the walking. Like the showering, like you're
just working out, bro.
Yeah,
just having a good workout where you grip the weights and just that. I don't know, something about grabbing a weight. For me, it's like a dumbbell, grabbing the dumbbell and be able to squeeze it. Like, that's why I don't really like the plastic ones. I love the ones with the metals on them. Just
my hands
just
are destroyed.
being able to just really grab it, just really feel that, and then you give it a little twist, and just that feeling of it. Yeah, man. Like,
Speaking of working out, I have to say I'm not 100% sure the 315 goal is going to hit at the end of the year like I want. And I only say that because I went 2 plates and 25. I think I had 2 and a 25 on there. 2 plates and a 25. Maybe I was 20 pounds shy at 315.
20 pounds.
So 295.
So what you got to break down in plates, bro? So it's
So
2 plates
I had
and
2 45 plates on each side, a 25 plate, a 10, that's 35, and then a 5 on that.
And what's your goal? It's got 3 plates on it, or what?
Yeah, 3 plates, 315.
plates.
The only reason I say that is I went to pull it, and it did not. I got lightheaded, stars.
Yeah.
Yeah, it fucked me up for a good part of the day yesterday.
Did it?
It was pretty bad.
Damn, bro.
And it sucks is I felt really strong when I walked in there yesterday.
Did you move it, or does it? Or you just,
No, it wouldn't even. I couldn't even get it to move, which sucked because the 2 plates was flowing real easy. So the 2 points I want to make with that is I don't want to wreck my back anymore.
That's fair.
I'm still gonna go for it. I'm still gonna push to get closer to that goal regardless. I just don't know that the 4 reps are gonna happen. But the other one, that one's looking still pretty good. The 90s by the end of the year, that one's looking pretty good.
Okay.
The 75s are moving pretty easy, getting easier. I mean, the last time they were a bit heavy, but I failed my first attempt when I went to put them up.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't let that get me down that day. I went back for them and got them up.
Fuck yeah.
And got the reps going.
I
So
love that.
that's moving in the right direction. So
Okay.
and there's things on, working on eating and drinking more and more is going to be my ticket to win all that shit. So speaking of gym goals here, speaking of gym, so so wonderful. I wouldn't say wonderful. It was good. It had some good UFC or not UFC boxing fights last night. We're recording this the day after the Jake Paul fight. There was some good and bad in all of it, but at the end of all of it, there was a level of respect, and that's what I want to talk about. Paid, not paid, whatever. You have to have some sort of respect for your opponent when you leave the fight after you just got your shit possibly rocked, regardless. There was the girls' fight was a little.
There wasn't much.
There wasn't.
There was still a little bit of respect.
There was respect because they both threw some good hard punches, but I think if the judging would have gone a little different, the respect would have been there a little bit higher.
Oh, 100%.
But when the judging didn't go the way that I feel like most of the people that watched it thought it should have.
I think so.
Minus like diehard
The 3
fans
people?
of her or family members.
Yeah.
I think there would have been respect. The guys, I mean, you didn't watch the fights before, but the welterweight fight, there was tons of respect from both of those guys.
Right.
It was awesome. Rigged, not rigged. I'm not saying either way on the Paul Tyson fight. I mean, respect on both ends. I mean, to get in the ring with a
28, 24? I don't even know.
27-year-old, you got to give Tyson some respect for being willing to do it, first of all. And then you got to give Paul some respect for getting in with one of the most renowned boxers in history.
Yeah.
Regardless if he in 30s prime, I don't think Jake would have stood a chance. But
no absolute way.
I think either way there has to be some respect on both ends. Whether you hate Jake Paul or not.
For sure.
So that I got thinking about that after I watched that fight. Respect. Like respecting people for what they're doing.
Yeah, man, I think that's fair. I think that I mean, just relating it to that, right? You look at, Jake does get a lot of negativity, right?
Oh,
He's
100%.
beating on, these older guys, blah blah blah. But he's a genius. Like, I think one thing I've noticed is he doesn't care what he gets. He's got respect for himself.
Yep.
And his family. He's got respect from his family, and he can care less what anybody else thinks about him. And I think there's one renowned thing that keeps coming about his fights is that everybody that jumps in the ring shows him respect because, like, well, you're willing to jump in the ring with me. Even some of these UFC guys, Tyron Woodley, like, that dude's a beast. Like, and he's older, but I wouldn't get in a ring with him. I wouldn't, even a boxing ring. Like, I wouldn't do that.
No.
And every other person that's got in there, like, they, after the fight, they've been like, yeah, respect you, you showed up, you did your thing. And, and for Mike Tyson, the same thing. Like, at the end of the fight, he's like, what did you, I forgot exactly what they asked him. Like, how do you feel like the world thinks of, how the world's going to take it? He's like, I don't care.
Yeah.
He's like, I got respect for myself, essentially. Like,
Yeah.
I'm proud of myself.
Well, and that's all you can be. I mean, one, you're 58 years old, and you're back in the ring. Who cares at that point? You're 58. I don't care who you're fighting.
I challenge anybody. Anybody. You could be a gym rat. I challenge anybody to put some gloves on, go in front of a punching bag and punch it for, what did they go, 2 minutes?
2 minutes, 8 rounds.
Go for 2 minutes 8 times in a row with is a 30-second break. I guarantee
you'll be toasted, man.
And that's with nobody punching you back.
Yeah. That's not happening to dodge, duck, dip, dive, dodge. Sorry, I couldn't help that one.
I can't anytime I hear that. Yeah. That's fucking awesome.
But yeah, I mean, that's very little movement. That's, this guy went, and not to mention at 10 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
Most of us
are in bed
by 10 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
And this guy is out there fighting.
And he's fucking jacked. For a
He is.
58-year-old,
He is.
he's in incredible shape. Like, he got an incredible, and he wasn't like, he had gotten like through his stages where he'd got a little heavy set.
Yeah.
And I mean, God, dude, like, respect is earned. And
Yeah.
that's what both of them, and anybody that's willing to step outside the norm and do things that others are unwilling to do. It's funny that we talk about this because I'm looking for a piece for my office, and it's the man in the arena, the Roosevelt quote. Have you heard about that one?
I don't think so.
So the man in the arena, essentially, it's don't let anybody outside the arena judge you. Essentially, here, I'll read it to you real quick.
I mean, that fits with what we're talking about right this second, so that's perfect.
So this is what it reads, if it pulls up.
Gotta love cell phones in my basement.
No, you got good Wi-Fi, so we're good. So the man in the arena, it is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how strong the man stumbles, or where the doer or the deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, because there is no effort without error or shortcoming, who does not actually strive to do who does actually strive to do the deeds, who knows enthusiasm, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end of the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be those cold and timid souls who neither victory nor defeat. So essentially, like, a lot of people are easy to point judgment, and other people are easy to like you failed, you didn't do this.
But are they willing to get up and do it?
Critic don't mean shit.
Yeah.
It's only the person in the arena. The critics will never get the light that in the person in the arena. All these people that are talking crap on this, on anybody, and we can relate this back to the last week. The critic will never have as much love and appreciation for and for everybody than the person and the man or the woman that's in the arena.
Yeah.
It's actually putting in the work, putting in the grind, putting in the time and effort to actually do something, to gain their respect for themselves, and then you'll essentially gain respect from people around you because they'll see, like, man, this person's committed, this person's devoted, this person's willing to do things that others aren't willing to do. And sometimes that hurts,
Yeah.
you know. And the reason I think people end up gaining respect because they look at you and be like, man. And it's this thing where it can go one or two ways. They either hate you, right, because they know that they see themselves in you, but they're not willing to do what you're doing.
I was going there.
And the respect is the same way because they see themselves in you, and they're like, man, this I respect because I couldn't do that.
Yeah.
I mean, you could, but I'm not doing that respect to them, right? It
Yeah.
comes from the same environment. The perspective is different from the person giving it because they have enough respect for themselves that they're like, I respect you.
No, that's 100%. Because I mean, I'll relate it to, I mean, the fight. We'll just go back to that right now. I respect every single person that stepped in that ring, whether they fought good, bad, hard, not hard, whatever. Because one, like you just said, I respect them because I can understand a little bit of the work that they put in because I know that to get to that level, that's commitment. You know, that's years and years of commitment. Even Jake Paul, granted, he's only been fighting since I think like 2020.
So 4 years still.
4 years. It wasn't like, okay, 2020, I'm going to step in and I'm going to knock out the first person or knock down the first person I stepped. No, hell no. There was still months of dedicated training, years of dedicated training, whatever you want to say. Tyson, same thing, years of training. All the girls, years of training. That's respectful right there, and all in its own.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's hard ass work. I mean, going to the gym, you got to respect some of these guys that are in there pushing massive weight. You know, those guys didn't walk in there never pushing weight and have good form and push that weight. No, they've built themselves up, and that's respectful because we've been doing it for so long. Mm-hmm. We can understand that point.
Right.
But when you don't do it, if you're not going to respect them, that's just kind of because you don't respect yourself. Mm-hmm. Like everything's coming back to you. If you're going to respect yourself enough, you're going to say, yeah, I respect you because, one, I'm not going to put the effort in to do that because I know how hard that is. And, yeah, it might be really hard, but that's also something I don't really want to do. I mean, we talked about it last night. She's like, the wife's like, you should go box. I'm like, no, I'm not going to go get my ass fucking dominated for no reason, you know. Money or not, I'll go to boxing classes, but I don't. At this point in my life, I don't want to step in the ring. I have no desire to. I have no desire to step in the ring with somebody else and fight them.
Yeah.
You know, if we're just doing like whatever, the punching bag, stuff like that, I'm all about that.
Yeah.
You know, so.
Yeah, man, respect's a big thing, and I think a lot of times, you know, you can lose respect for yourself.
That's when shit starts going downhill real fast.
Yeah, and I think it's important to know that respecting yourself, something is your own respect will command respect from others, right? So if, I think I'd heard something along the lines of like people will treat you not how they see you, but how you see yourself. So the level of how they treat you will be, and I guess it's reverse. It's how shittily they treat you and how you allow them to do that. It's because that's how you view yourself, and you think that that's acceptable for how you to be treated, right? Essentially, that was the saying that he kind of provided, and you know, respect. You know, you heard it from every great you've ever heard of. Respect is earned.
Yep.
Right. And it's earned on. I mean, lifting weights and stuff like that is probably the easiest way to do it, right? That's why a lot of people say get in shape first, you know, do those things to get better at your body. But respect can come from just keeping a commitment that you did, right? It doesn't always necessarily need to translate to you being this like jacked, model type of, superhuman type of person. But I mean, if you keep a commitment to yourself that, hey, I'm going to, walk every day with my family or whatever, I'm going to show up for my family every single day. We're going to sit and read books. Like you can have respect. Like, and I come home after a hard day's of work and I still sit down with my family and have family time. That to me is that probably be more respectful to me because I see that more of an easy way out, right? Gymming and stuff like that, it is very respectable, especially from somebody that's, if somebody's lost a lot of weight or has never even hit the gym. You're showing up every single day, putting in the work. That's amazing. But when it comes to like everyday life, to me, and I guess we just talked to us before we started the podcast, is, it's easy to come home and just kick your shoes off and, and chill and get on your phone and kind of block it. I had a tough day. That shit's easy. But the hard part is what I respect is a guy and a man that comes home. It's like, fuck this. I'm putting my phone down. What's up? Tell me about your day. Tell me about you. How are you doing? What can I help with? Like, you're still showing up, serving your family, being there for your family. To me, that's huge. And maybe that's just my background. That's just because, I didn't really have that. So if I see a guy do that, I'm like, I respect that guy a lot. A guy that shows up for his kids, his family. That was the one thing that I always, admired about you. When I first met you and I met everybody else, I was like, obviously Soph was, a lot, bigger and stuff like that. But you were running around everywhere. You guys had just had kids. And I was like, he's a great father. Like, if anything, he's a great father, because I saw the way you're willing to help your wife, and a great husband. You were willing to help your wife with anything. And you were always like, babe, what can I get for you? What can, and it wasn't because she was lazy. I just thought because you loved her. You're like, I'll do anything for this woman.
I was going to say even now.
Yeah.
Even now, I was thinking about that when you were talking. I was like, you know what? Thinking about it, I'm like, there's a point like 6, 7 o'clock where we wind down.
Yeah.
But I'm going since like 4:40 in the morning. So, there is
Your days end earlier than most. Yes.
Yeah, there is a wind down period.
Sure.
Don't get me wrong. But my wife always is like, I feel bad that I didn't get this done, or I feel bad I didn't get that done. I'm like, man, you got to stop. Like, you get up, you do school with the girls,
yeah.
You go to the gym to take care of yourself, you come home and you work. When you're done working, you're still mom, you're still wife. And yeah, I get that you have other things to do. And now you've got schooling on top of all of that. I know why you decided to do it, but you've got schooling on top of all of that. And as we've talked about, as we know, entrepreneurs' work doesn't just end at 5 or 6 o'clock. Like, there's times she's got to post for the business or order stuff or deal with clients, whatever it is. And she's like, well, I feel bad. Because the other day she's like, well, I feel like I've just kind of left the dishes for you to do. I'm like, that's the least I can do at this point.
Yeah.
Like, it's the least I can do. She's like, yeah, but you work. I'm like, it's the least I can do. Your job essentially is harder than mine. Granted, I work more hours than you. Your job's harder than mine because your job's 24/7, first of all.
Yeah.
You're being mom. There's 2 hours where you're not mom at all. And you're working while the kids are here. So you're trying to play 2 roles sometimes. And this week was a little rough. There's a few days.
Yeah.
I won't lie. It was rough. But I'm like, you have to remember, you do way more. Like, in the grand scheme of our life, you do more than I do. So me doing the dishes or something is
you
little.
You have that level of respect for the things that she does.
Exactly. Little or nothing. I respect everything you're doing.
Right.
Just as much as you're respecting what I'm doing.
Right.
I'm getting up and I'm going to the gym and I'm working hard, and you appreciate that I come home and I do the dishes, make a meal, hang out with the kids, just as much as I respect that you took your time, your energy, because her day could be so much easier. Send the kids to school, have, work a few hours, have some time to herself, do nothing, pick the kids up, but that's not what she wanted in this life. And I respect that she made those choices to change everything that way.
I also think that's important too in a marriage is that level of respect, right? I think I've always told you, and I think that's one of the ways is, men see love in the level of respect, and women see, love in the way of love, of affection and time, quality time, whatever that might be. But ultimately, there's still a respect level, right? I don't ever, that was one thing I always told Taylor, like that's one thing we just have to keep. Like, don't ever, disrespect. I mean, there's disrespect if something happened, just being married, right? But I think there's always a level of respect that we've maintained. And I think that's super important. Super important because for me, once the barrier's broke, like, you can kind of start saying some dicey shit to each other. And that's just, I've been there, I've lived it, and I'm just like, that's just not where I want to go. I'd rather just, be respectful to you, you be respectful to me, because we do respect each other. Like I see the things that she does, like it goes back to the same thing. We see each other for the things like, man, I don't know if I could, like the things that she's been through. I'm like, I have a lot of love and respect for you, because I don't know if we talked about this when we briefly, we got to sit down with her, but when we talked about her story, I was like, when she, briefly, I was like, I don't think I would be you. Like, I really don't.
No.
I would be cold hearted. I'd be F everybody type of deal. Like, but you turn into a sweeter person. You're actually more compassionate against people. And that's a rare trait, because it would have been easy to choose the other path. So I was like, I respect you a lot for that. And I think a lot of people, don't see her in that light, and that's okay. But they, like, if they truly knew the whole story, like, damn, like for your age and everything you went through and up to now, like that's you deserve a lot of respect and a lot of admiration, and say, fuck, like you really turned into a good person, because it could have been dark. And
I was gonna say that whole thing plus the field she's in. Yeah, that's not easy. We definitely need to get her on to hear more about that. But man. Overall, both of our wives have grown tremendously since I met both of them and you met both of them. Yeah. They've grown tremendously, and their bond is still as strong as it was when they were kids. Yeah, which is great. Yeah. If not stronger, I was going to say, if anything is stronger. We've grown, all of us have kind of grown into a pattern into a path that we're trying to go bigger and better to take care of not only ourselves and anybody around us. Yeah. And that's what we're going for. Yeah.
Yeah. There's respect. There's respect. Yeah, man, it's a big part, and we could talk hours on this, because I
was going to say, there's so much. And here, follow through. I think you hit it pretty hard when you said follow through, because there's a lot of times that when you don't follow through, whether big or small, the respect starts dwindling and dwindling and dwindling. And I'll be the first to admit there's been, and this on both sides, there's been some follow through issue, right? But
welcome to planet Earth, man.
Yeah, exactly. But the point is that you got to course correct.
Of course.
And that's where the problem begins, is if you don't want to course correct and change and make the movements forward, that's where the issues become. Yep. Versus if you just continue to, it gets harder and harder and harder to build that back up.
Ignorance is bliss, man. And sometimes when you're willing to ignore the signs and make the changes, the change is the hard part. The work is hard, but the change is the hardest part, because you have to actually say, like, man, we need to adjust. And sometimes that small decision of you just, accepting that is the longest and most painful part, purgatory part you can be in. Yep. And man, I agree that's 100% accurate. So,
like I said, this whole thing came about because the UFC or the boxing fights. I keep saying, you said UFC earlier. Now you're throwing me off. You're talking about your friend, so okay. It keeps throwing me off. But it all came around because at the end of it, when they're talking to Paul and Tyson, what they both said was just basically, we respect the hell out of each other.
Yeah, respect.
For the fact that he's willing to step in the fight, he's willing to step in the ring. I respect myself for showing up, kind of a thing. The whole scenario was all about love and respect for the other person. Yep. It didn't matter that, Tyson or Paul stepped on his foot the day before, Tyson slapped him, but Tyson can, Paul can stand up and say, that was a hell of a slap,
Got me good, bro.
It was good. I deserved it. It was good.
Yeah.
But that level of respect, I'm like, that could have gone two different ways, because Paul can act like a douche. I don't know the guy personally, so outwardly looks and acts like a douche sometimes, right? And I was talking to my wife. I was like, that could have gone very differently if he'd have walked in and been like, I'm fucking champ.
Yeah, that's what I thought he was gonna do, to be honest. And
granted, there's probably some PR people in the background like, you're gonna destroy yourself if you say this. Yeah. But I also think he's smart enough with everything he's done in his life that he knows the level of respect that it took for Tyson to get back in the ring with him, period.
Yeah.
And that just got me thinking, and on the way home, I was like, bam, light bulb. Respect, because it's so underrated, I would say, in my opinion, because there's so many people out there that are just so willing to disrespect you for anything and everything.
Nowadays, it is lower on the totem pole, I could say. You know, maybe not for our excuse me, for our generation, but the newer generation. This whole prank and all this stuff, like, there was and I don't want to grow up. I say I grew up in the wrong era, but some of the eras where chivalry was still around, where you open the door for your wife, and there was a respect level for your elders, and this certain stuff. And I'm not saying all that is gone, but it definitely is not as prevalent as it was back in the day. And to me, that stuff's important. That whole level of respect in our community and in our society, in our culture, is important. Like, it's the same thing with politics and all this other thing. If respect is always there, like, the truth can never be considered as disrespect, right? So, if I have respect for you and you have respect for me, but we're disagreeing on a point, I know I'm never going to cross the line and disrespect you to a certain extent where it's going to get physical or it's going to get personal, right? And it's funny because now thinking back, I ended up watching Skip Bayless. I don't know if you know who that is. Skip Bayless and Shannon Sharp. They essentially,
I know who Shannon Sharp is.
Yeah, they had a show together. It's called Undisputed, and it was on FS1 and not blah blah blah. But they essentially went their own ways, kind of badly. And the old guy, Skip, he he ended up interviewing with some of these other podcasters just recently, and he started talking about the kind of what had happened and regrets and blah blah blah. And to me, I'm like, the whole incident kind of jumped off of something, pretty much they were talking about Tom Brady and, Shannon Sharp's a Hall of Famer, Tom Brady's a Hall of Famer, and the guy loves Tom Brady, so he kind of took a shot at Shannon Sharp. And Shannon was like, took his glasses off and was like, really, and these are like, they were debating sports, so like, it's kind of, heated, but this was like the most, essentially the old guy told, like, you're not Tom Brady, like. And he's like, Shannon's like, I'm a Hall of Famer too. What are you talking about?
But they're Hall of
but it's totally different, right?
Yeah, I was about to say we don't need to get into that.
And that's what the guy was saying. It's like, you're still a Hall of Famer, but he's in another atmosphere or universe type of thing. But he just took it disrespectfully. The way the conversation went definitely sounded disrespectful, like the way that he had said something turned out. Not Shannon, but the other guy. And so he's even like, put your glasses back on to Shannon. And it was just a weird interaction. And, he talked about that. He's like, we always knew that, outside of that one incident, he's like, we always knew that it would never get personal. And that I would never disrespect him because I have a lot of, respect for him for the amount of work and ethic and and all this stuff. And I'm like, that makes a lot of sense. But it goes back to us, like, yeah, if I know I have enough respect for you in our culture, in our community, in our all this, and a lot of people in our family. But I know that no matter what, I'm never gonna take a jab at somebody like that I respect. I'm not gonna, if I ever take a jab at you, or if I do something that really, the level of respect has diminished somehow, and it could have been in the instance, or it could have been just really for a long time. But usually, if I'm pretty big on respect, so I don't. Unless you've done something like, I will probably shoot back. But respect is huge, man. It needs to be something that's in today's society and in everything that we do.
Well, when we started this whole thing, I mean, when we started going on walks, when we, before we even started this, when we started going on walks and started talking, I mean, there was a base level of respect, period. Mm-hmm. Because we didn't know much about each other. Right. So we kind of had a base level of respect. Like, I respect you because you're taking care of Taylor, your family, doing your thing, and it's just vice versa. You respect me because I'm taking care of my family. And the more we learned from each other and grew as friends and as brothers, that level of respect went higher and higher and higher. Mm-hmm. And, I mean, when we started this thing, me and you had a very understanding level of respect. Mm-hmm. And that was built off of that friendship and brotherhood we created before that.
Right.
And I knew, And my level of respect is always, if you're going to be at this time, I'm going to be there. Otherwise, I'm going to let you know.
Yeah.
You know, and we've talked about that before. We've talked about it personally. We've talked about it, I believe, on the show, that level has to be there, especially for us.
Yep.
Period. And that's something that's just been, you know, the generation. That was my, you know, something my parents always were early. My dad was always a couple minutes early. Mom was always early. And that's just how life was. And I understood that. I've known that my whole life. But that's my level of respect for whoever I'm working for, whoever I'm doing something with, is that if I am going to be late, I mean, hell, even parties that we know people aren't going to show up to for another half hour, an hour, we're like, we don't want to be there at 7 and, you know, be the first people there, but we also don't want to be disrespectful as hell and show up at 9 o'clock.
Right.
You know, so it's like some of those, the parties you tote this line, like, how do I want to be? I mean, and it depends on the party. If it's a family party, it's, we'll be there maybe 5-10 minutes late.
Yeah.
You know, but that's not a big deal.
It's a wedding or something. Yeah, you're treating it a lot different, right?
Yeah, if it's a wedding, I mean, hell, we were there a day early for your wedding.
Yeah, it was a little excessive.
I mean, I just wanted to hang out.
Yeah,
but
right.
No, just kidding.
That was cool. Yeah.
But yeah, no, that exact thing. You want to be, if it's truly that important, you're going to do everything you can to respect that person's time, money, energy, whatever it might be.
For sure. 100%.
And that's just the way life needs to be. I mean, going back to generations, we talked about, I don't know if me and you talked about it, if I talked about somebody else, there's changes in generations, and it's hard for the older crowd to kind of understand the change in the generation, I think. And it's kind of funny when some of the older generation complains about the younger generation when they have kids in that generation.
Yeah.
We had a hard time with that with some people we know, because it's like you realize that your kid's acting the way you taught them, right? And that's part of the problem, is you taught or did not teach, I guess would probably be the more proper term here. You did not teach them what to do. I mean, talk about like the chivalry, like you talked about.
Yeah.
You know, my wife gives me shit because we bought the new car, and she's like, now you open my door for me. I'm like, there's nothing to do with that. It's just a light bulb clicked, and I mean, I do it here and there, but it's like, you know, a light bulb
those
clicked.
things
and
matter, man. Those things matter. Like,
now I get mad when she opens her
they seem
door.
so small, like, you know what I mean? But like, I have a good friend that does it, you know, and a rising tide, you know, raises all ships, because if you're amongst a bunch of men that are doing, all your friends are doing it, I guarantee you'll be like, I'm not gonna be the only weirdo like not doing it. You know what I mean? He does it every time. I don't care if we're going to the gas station for like a quick, you know, but that's just, and he's like, I wasn't always like that. Like, I just, because I got around the association, I need to be a cut above. So he does it like that. And I'm like, I love that, dude. Like, but like, back to your point, like, yeah, like, it's kind of weird at first. Like, if you don't really ever done it, your wife would kind of be like, oh, thank you, and then, you know, but the more you do it, the more she gets used to it, and then less. And then when you don't do it, she's like, what the hell? What did I do? You know what I mean? And so it's definitely appreciated. I know it is.
100% have gotten shit sometimes. Like, what? I got to open my own damn door now?
Yeah.
Shit. Like,
so it is amazing, and it is. It just shows them the level of respect that you have for them. You know, it doesn't cost you anything.
honestly, what I think it was when we had kids, it was loading the kids up or helping the kids get into the car.
For sure.
And, you know, as the person I am, that was, you know, something I tried to take care of for her as much as possible, putting the kids in the car so she'd get in the car herself. And then it got to the point that my kids could get in the car themselves, but I had to open the door. And now it's a little bit, you know, with the 4Runner's super easy to open the door. So, and my girls are old enough that they both can do it.
Yeah.
But now it's kind of cute because my wife opened the door for our youngest, and I'll open the door for her.
And I was going to say,
at the same time. So
this is,
but it's that revolving back to now we have a little bit more of the time to do it. Right. Now that they're a little more self-sufficient, it's now I can put a little bit more back into taking care of her and respecting her.
And your kids will see, you know, having daughters.
Yeah.
Your kids will see that as a level of respect, right? If you're out here like not saying, and we're using opening the car door as a very small detail,
Yes.
but just take that, like when they go out in the dating world, once again, when you're like 25 at least,
Right.
no, but when they go into the teenage dating, right? If a boy isn't doing that, she might not think of it, but when she gets in a more serious relationship, but she keeps seeing like mom and dad are a certain way, dad treats mom with the respect level of this, mom treats dad of a respect level, they see those things like, so that's the type of respect that a man needs to have for me. Oh, that makes sense. Like,
even just
like
the
that.
beginning of them, they're going to realize that that's a level of respect that they deserve.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's more enjoyable to like help them, especially when and I'm talking kids now here, just it's more enjoyable to like open the doors because they're so cute and they're like, thanks, Dad.
What just makes them happy, man.
Yeah.
And what more do we want as fathers? Is just to see our families light up, and be like, oh, thanks,
Right. Granted, and this is a little off topic. I mean, I didn't want to necessarily carry my oldest yesterday because she's getting big. I mean, not that I'm not a strong dad, and not that I can't carry my family, but I'm like, you're old enough. Come on. But she was asleep when we left because the fights ran stupid late.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, it was pretty late.
But once I picked her up, especially like carrying her back into my house because they didn't have shoes on either, so I'm like, and she was awake, and I'm like, no, I'll just carry you in. Like, she woke up when I got home. I was like, I got you. It made me feel really good because she just clung to me, and I'm like, I haven't had this from her in a little while.
I know exactly what you mean.
I mean, my youngest still is, I'm still probably shouldn't be carrying her to bed every night, but it's her little thing, and she loves it.
Enjoy it as long as you can.
Yeah, exactly, because there's going to be a day that she's going to be like, no, I got it, Dad. And it is going to break my heart a little bit.
Yep, it does.
But I think all of that said, that shows my wife the level of respect I have for my family too.
Yep, it does. Sure does.
So
sure does. Cool, man. Well, I appreciate this topic.
That was a longer topic than I had planned on.
We usually go longer. Yeah, or we went longer than we usually do.
Yeah, but it was a good one.
It was a good one, man. Respect is super important.
Yeah,
and it's huge. Like I say, we could probably talk about this for hours, but and it'll just loop into different segments and stuff like that. But
I got a good challenge for people though. So
shoot it, man.
So all right, guys, this has come up a lot lately, especially with the elections and how turmoil life is right now for certain people. Your challenge is to take a step back and listen to that other person's opinion and respect their opinion. Even if they're belittling, being rude, you need to step back and think, you need to have some level of respect for how they are living their life. I've had this multiple times with the elections, with something I posted in a Facebook group. You need to have respect for other people's opinions. Not your opinions, not the fix-all, grade-all. I promise you. And if you open your eyes to their opinions and you respect their opinions, you're going to learn something, I promise. Granted, there are people that you just can't have a conversation with, and at that point, you need to stop it because now you're losing respect for yourself when you're continuing that battle. But if they're if they're having a good conversation with you, respect their opinion. It's going to go a hell of a lot farther than you disrespecting them and throwing hate towards them, I promise. I've created a little bit more of a bond with certain people because of doing that, period. And that's not just since the election, that's just period. Growing myself and having more respect for others' opinions is probably the best thing you can do. So if you get in a conversation with somebody, respect their opinion and learn from them. Whether it's good or bad, whether you agree or disagree, take that information and learn.
Love it, man. Good job, brother.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.
Thank you for showing up.
Have a good weekend.
You too.
And thanks, guys. Thanks for showing up too. So appreciate it.
We appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Bye.
The Roundtable Podcast, where we talk to our personal growth, struggles